Hi, this is Sarit Switzer, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast, a podcast devoted to the teachings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi as recorded in his most famous work, the Tanya. My hope for this show is to make these teachings accessible and relatable to the average person, regardless of prior Jewish education or affiliation. The episodes follow the prescribed daily study portions and are meant to serve as practical lessons in how to live your life as your true self and develop an authentic and powerful relationship with your Creator. I have personally experienced the effects the study of this work has had on me, and I'm excited to share what I can of this knowledge with you. So please join me on this journey of learning, self-growth, and connection with your source. Hi, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast. And today is episode 49 for the 8th of Shevat in a leap year. And today we're going to talk about Jewish genealogy and what it means to be a Jew. So there's a lot of discussions. This is, a pretty hot topic. What does it mean to be Jewish? What is it to be Jewish? Is Judaism a religion? Is Judaism a nationality? Is Judaism a culture? What is Judaism exactly? And what does it mean to be Jewish? So we know that it can't be so simple as being Jewish is a religion, because there are, unfortunately, a lot of different Jews in the world that are not very religious, and yet we still call them Jewish. So we know that it's actually impossible to renounce your Judaism no matter what. Once a Jew, you're always a Jew. We also can't say that being Jewish is a culture or a nationality, because first of all, Jewish culture is really, when you break it down, just like a kind of amalgamation of many different cultures. Jewish music sounds really similar to Greek music. Jewish food is pretty much just either Middle Eastern food or European food, from Russia and things like that. So there's not like a lot of like Jewish culture that's really authentically uniquely Jewish. So what does it actually mean to be Jewish? So what we'll learn today is that what it means to be Jewish is it really is a genealogical thing. And of course, we do know that there are converts, and that's a topic in its own right. But the way just to address it here for a moment before we get into the Jewish genealogy aspect is that we say that converts are very, very special souls. And there's a saying in Torah that comes up where it says Ger shenitgayer, a convert who converted. And what that alludes to is the fact that they actually were always Jewish. It's not somebody who wasn't Jewish and then they decided to become Jewish, even though maybe that was like manifestly how it was. But the truth is that we believe that somebody who converts to Judaism, on some level, their soul was actually a Jewish soul to begin with. And somehow it just got like mixed up in the descent process down here somehow. But the way things normally should run is being Jewish is really a genealogical thing. We know that being Jewish comes from the mother. It comes down through the mother. So if somebody's mother is Jewish, then they're Jewish. If a person's father is Jewish, but the mother is not Jewish, that does not make the person Jewish. The tribal lineage comes through the father, but whether the person's a Kohen, a Levi, an Israelite, or whatever tribes there used to be back in the day, but being Jewish and whether a person's Jewish or not comes through the mother. So, but just the main idea, aside from the specifics, is that being Jewish is really a very genealogical thing. It's something that if we had to say what it means to be Jewish, is it a religion? No. Is it a culture? No. Is it a nationality? No. It's really a family that is a matrilineal descent family is the way that we could describe it. And the progenitors of this family, the original family members who founded this family, so to speak, are our forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and of course their wives also, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. So these were the original, the OGs, as they call them, nowadays. So these were our original people who started this family that we call being Jews. And what we'll learn about in today's Tanya is that what gave them the power to be able to instill this force, this energy, this magic, so to speak, of what it means to be Jewish to all of the descendants that came after them was by virtue of their extreme humility and self-sacrifice and like selflessness. So not even humility in the sense that you might be thinking, oh, they didn't think very high of themselves or whatever. They actually, it wasn't that. It was that they had succeeded in achieving a level of such selflessness that there was no ego at all, to the point that the way that they're referred to in rabbinical texts is as being a chariot for God. So they were like, just like a chariot takes the rider wherever it wants to go, so too were the avos, the forefathers. They were considered to be chariots for God. Their entire being had become just a vehicle to do God's will. And through this reality of them being chariots, this is what gave them the power to bestow what they had, this Jewishness that they had. And we're going to obviously go into that a little bit more. What is this Jewishness? To all of their descendants after that. So that regardless of who the person is, the lowest of the low, the highest of the high, whatever, every single person who's Jewish comes from the same place and comes from this very, very, very high place, which actually we'll learn is the wisdom of God himself. So let's get into the text and try to understand it in a little bit more of a technical way. So this is, again, we're in the middle of chapter 18. And so the Alter Rebbe says here that the forefathers, so he left off yesterday with a question, or, he kind of gave a teaser about this idea of how is it that the forefathers were able to give us this love, which also encompasses fear to all Jews. And so he says here, this is the answer. And he says that the reason why they were able to do this and bestow this love and fear to every single Jew as an inheritance is by virtue of the fact that they were chariots. And thus they merited to be able to draw down the nefesh, ruach, neshama, these are different levels of souls, to their children after them for eternity. And these souls, this nefesh, ruach, neshama, come from the 10 spheres of holiness, which come from the 4 worlds: Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. Don't get caught up too much in the terms if you're not familiar with them. It's not so important now, but basically these are 4 spiritual worlds. And each person, so they were able to bestow these souls to their descendants through the souls which originate in these 10 spheres of holiness that come from the 4 worlds, and each one according to their level. So there's different levels of souls, obviously. Some souls come from one world, some souls come from a different world, but all of them come from one of these worlds. And it can go according to the person's deeds and according to their levels. But nevertheless, the Alter Rebbe says that every single Jew, no matter how low they are, even if they are rebellious and sinful, through even if you have 2 Jews who are not very good people and sin against God and everything, through their marital union, through them being intimate with one another, if they give birth to a soul, this soul is going to come from Malchus of Asiya. So I don't want to get like too technical right now, but just to give a brief explanation as to what that means is again, we mentioned there are 4 worlds: Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. So Asiya is the last of the 4 worlds. It's the lowest of the 4 worlds. And then there are the 10 spheres, the 10 spheres that are found within each one of these worlds. And there's Chochmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. That's the 10 of them really fast. So if you notice, the last one is Malchus. So Malchus of Asiya, Malchus of the lowest world. So the lowest aspect of the lower world. This is the lowest aspect of holiness. So it's saying basically here that even 2 sinful people who get together and have a child, even if they're the worst of the worst kind of people, they may be getting a soul from this lowest level, but this lowest level is still a level within holiness. It's the lowest level within holiness. So it's Malchus of Asiya within holiness. And since it is from holiness, so since this Malchus comes from, it's the lowest one, but it is one of the 10 spheres of holiness. We also know that all of the spheres are inter-inclusive with one another. So that means that this Malchus of Asiya contains within it Chochmah of Asiya also, which Chochmah is the highest level within Asiya. And within this Chochmah of Malchus of Asiya, stay with me, is found the Chochmah of Malchus of Atzilus, which is the highest of all the world. And since we said all of them are inter-inclusive, what does Chochmah of Malchus of Atzilus have within it? It has within it the Chochmah of Atzilus. So this is the highest level of Atzilus, within which shines the light of the infinite of God, for real. As it says that, we said that God founded the world with Chochmah, with wisdom, and that God created everything with wisdom, with this Chochmah. And so we find that, if we really think about it, so I know that's a lot of, if these terms are new to you, I don't want you to get caught up in the terms. What I want you to recognize is this idea of how there's this unbroken chain that goes through all the worlds and all the different levels of the worlds and all the different spheres from the top all the way down. And so that what we're basically saying here is that when you really recognize that and you recognize this unbroken chain and this link from the bottom to the top, we find that at the very top, what do we find at the very top is the infinite God, is the light of the infinite God, right? And so that what we find then is that this light of the infinite God is vested within the chokhmah, the wisdom of every single Jewish person, no matter who they are. And that, so when it's vested within the wisdom of every person, the chokhmah of every person. So again, since this a person is also inter-inclusive in this way, this chokhmah permeates down and spreads out into the entire soul to give it life from the head all the way down to the feet. And then the Alter Rebbe brings a verse from Kohelet, from Ecclesiastes here, to support this, where it says, "HaChokhmah tichyeh ba'alea." That's from Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 12, if I'm not mistaken. And what that means is that Chokhmah will vivify all who own it. So basically it's saying, once again, that just like everything, there's this unbroken chain that stems from all the way top at the infinite light of God, all the way down through all the worlds that culminate in a person and a man and in the man's wisdom. So too does this person's wisdom permeate through their entire body, vivifying their entire body and vivifying the very essence of who they are. And then the Alter Rebbe concludes here with brackets, and he says that there are even some times when the sinners of Israel actually stem from very, very high souls, which were in the depths of the klipos. And he says that this is elaborated upon further in the Sefer Gilgulim of the Arizal. So he doesn't get into it, but he just wants to let you know that. So that's the portion for today. So just to give a recap is just, again, this idea that there's this unbroken chain that every single one of us as Jews is a part of. And that is that every single one of us, regardless of our level, regardless of who we are, regardless of our sins, even our merits, anything, we all come ultimately from the same place, from this soul root, from this place that is ultimately, if we trace it back far enough, it is the light of God himself. And the way that we were able to have this light come down and bring us into being and allow us to live is through the merit of our forefathers who were able to be selfless enough that they could make themselves into chariots for God to bring this light down into our souls. So I hope that made sense. And I hope you didn't get too caught up in the technicalities because it really was just more about understanding the main idea rather than getting into the specifics too much. So, and that's it. And then we're going to continue with this tomorrow. I'll speak to you then. Thanks for listening to the It Is Taught podcast, hosted by Sarit Switzer. This podcast is dedicated in loving memory of my maternal grandfather, Avraham Yitzchak ben Binyamin HaKohen of blessed memory. Music by Shoshana. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please share it with others and subscribe on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review. To find out more about the It Is Taught project, including more information on my soon-to-be published book, please visit our website, itistaught.com. To catch the latest from me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow, and until then, have a great day.